Hello and welcome back to another Inside the Lab live stream. Welcome back. We are here. We are here. We're locked and loaded in what feels like forever. If you're just now tuning in, welcome. If you're here on the replay and you are part of the replay fam, do let us know down in the comment section below. And as always, if you have any questions about any other things discussed here throughout the duration of this live stream, please feel free to leave your question, comment, or opinion, take what have you down in the comment section below. It's been a while. I'm curious to see who pops up. I know it's been quite a while since we've gone live, and I meant to share it over on the community tab. I think I did share in the community tab earlier. But it's been a while. It's been a while. I've been dealing with a few things here behind the scenes, just trying to keep the content fresh and invigorating. And of course, keeping up with some of the trends that we have been all experiencing, or that most of us have been seeing, and that we are going to talk about throughout the duration of this live stream, because it kind of fits right into the realm, or right into the the core foundation of this conversation, if you will, and that is the correlation between the used market, not just limiting it to the scope of, say, just graphics cards, but the PC market as a whole, right? The different kind of deals and bundles you can come across to either maximize your budget or maximize the performance of your system. And of course, when you're able to save money while doing so, it's a beautiful thing. It's what we call a glorious thing. And I see we have Brother Cliff is in the house. Brother Cliff says, "What's up? I'm in a bad cell area." All good, Brother Cliff. As you tune in, just pop in and out. I see also Sparta Rules 1993 is in the house. Sparta Rules is a channel member. Shout out to our channel members holding down the channel, and of course sponsoring the content within itself. Big salute and big shout out to all channel members. Mrs. Mod herself also a channel member, but shout out to you guys. Sparta Rules says, "Happy to see you back, brother." Yeah, and I've been talking to Sparta Rules here outside of the channel as we're working on his system. I did document the process, and I did get your call, brother Sparta Rules. Um, your your motherboard has been shipped out, and so we wait back and see what the results are. And for anybody else who's not in the know, you're just gonna have to look out for that video when it does post, or when it's published. I'm a little behind in the editing department, or in the editing room, so bear with me on that one as I get the content flowing back out here at a normal pace, and get back to a groove, and just that overall flow that we were towards the beginning of the year, before I had experienced some life changes that, life happens. A lot of us, we're adults, and we know just life happens, things happens, and if it's not within the realm of your control, it's not about how you react to them. But I guess what is more so about how you react to them. But nonetheless, I'm here. We are rocking and rolling with the content. Earlier in the year, I had talked about wanting to get back to the core of what inspired me to be a content creator in this niche, or in this field, and that is the used market. Because graphics cards, fam, they're available. They're around. This has caused graphics card prices to drop on previous generations. We're going to talk about that in this live stream. Excuse me. I just want to plug in, though, that I had posted an Instagram video. I believe everybody's here is following me on Instagram, but if you're not following me on Instagram and you're here on the replay and you're watching, or you're just tuning in, give me a follow over there at Inside the Lab YT. I've been doing my best to provide broad channel updates to Instagram followers, and of course channel members get exclusive content updates right here within the community tab on YouTube. And I just want to take a quick moment to give a special salute to Sparta Rules, representing the i3 avatar. Shout out to our i3. Hey, listen, between 10th, 11th, and 12th generation i3, their performance metrics, they're nothing to be ignored. Especially if you're looking to have a system that can have a balance between, say, student, and maybe you work from home, but you also want to be able to do some light gaming in between, like some Minecraft or Destiny 2, like a rail shooter or something to that extent. Don't sleep on 10th, 11th, 12th trend core i3s. But Sparta Rules with the super chat, I do appreciate it.
Thanks
of course,
for the super chat.
uh-huh.
Now you got a super rap.
Much appreciated, Sparta Rules. Thank you for the super chat. Do appreciate it. It feels great to be back. Let me get it one more time.
Thanks for the super chat.
Uh-huh.
Now you got a super rap.
It feels so good to be live again. But what I was saying before, I wanted to give special recognition to Sparta WASDD Moves for the super chat, which thank you. Super chats go a long way. We're also going to talk about super thanks in this live stream. I mean, this is kind of like an update live stream, plus wanting to tackle this conversation that's been long overdue. I had to keep rescheduling it, but you can kind of look at this live stream as a cross between the two, as a update live stream, and of course talking about the state of the used market and how it correlates to the new market. Which side has the most potential for the maximum amount of value? That's what we're going to talk about in this live stream. But I was mentioning I was sick yesterday. I was down under, y'all. Fam, listen, I was feeling bad to the point to where I think I slept from about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's about 3 o'clock this morning. I just woke up extremely thirsty and hungry. Only thing I remember is taking some medicine and dozing off, but I was not in a good state to live stream. So I said, you know what, we're going to go live. We have to. It's an absolute must. And I was actually hoping that the viewer who was in the live chat before it started was actually here now, because I found it. I thought it was just hilarious. I thought it was funny when they said, It says, "Is it actually going to happen tomorrow or today?" And I said, "Oh man, that hit hard." But nah, this person is correct. Right? This live stream has been long overdue, and going forward, we will be back in our normal routine, in our normal weekend live stream schedule. I did put a post out, a community tab post over here, right here on YouTube, to kind of see what would be a good, what would be a good schedule block to keep the live streams going, not just the live XP, but even the extended show, the live XE for channel members, and all other future live streams, like when we do our pop-up gaming series, right? When we get back into just sitting down and having a conversation with the community, and just hashing out all the details from there. And it looks like my chat's not working over on Freestream. That sucks. But nonetheless, you keep the conversation going. As Cliff says, been tinkering with an i3 myself. Yeah, I mean, where there's value, then there's promise. And if that's the i3's value promise or value proposition, then it is worth exploring. It is worth taking a grander look at. So keep us posted on your findings, Cliff. Let us know what you come across, and if from your experiences with, I'm not sure which generation i3 that is. I want to say I'm not sure. I can't tell based off the avatar, but do let us know right here in the comment section. TMZ is in the house. TMZ, is good to see you. TMZ says, hello all, nice to see everyone again. Yes. We was just talking about that. We were just talking about how the live show has been long overdue, fam. Long overdue. It's good to see TMZ. There's some regulars like TMZ and Bad Habit. We got Sparta Rules and Cliff in the house. Some of our regulars here in this community. It's always great, a good feeling to see you guys and gals, for the ones who are out there, coming back to the live show and just sharing in this conversation, sharing your experiences. TMZ, this live stream, of course, we're talking about the state of the PC market, but also wanted to give the community some slight updates just in between. I've been sick the past couple days, and been unable to live stream past couple weeks. So this is why this live show has been extended, to lack of better words, a few times. But nonetheless, we are here, and we're going to keep the conversation going. Again, my restream chat isn't displaying properly over here, and that sucks. Let me see if I can probably just bring that down. Maybe if I refresh it, we'll see. If I refresh it, will it want to get its act together? If not, I'm just going to take it down. But Cliff says, Lab fam, shout out to the grocery store fan. Wife dragged me to the market real quick. Hey, at least if you went by yourself, Cliff, at least there's a good chance that you can make it out even quicker. Because when we go in with, I don't know for our non-married friends and fam, but if you know how that goes, let us know in the chat. Because sometimes, man, those journeys could be a little longer than even what you would think. I mean, Mrs. Ma spends time, she's sitting there looking at me, but she spends time looking at maybe one or two things on the shelf. It's mind-boggling. It's nerve-wracking, but all good, brother Cliff. Be safe out there in the world, and we're so glad that you're still able to throw it back here and listen to us over in the headset. Now, with that out of the way, we're going to jump. let's jump right into the conversation here. And nope, this isn't the first card that is supposed to be shown, but we're gonna drop this here and bring up our title card. And that is essentially, is the used PC market worth it? Now, is there no honor in buying used or secondhand? Price aside, the honor is actually in the savings, fam. The honor is in the savings. The economy of the builder, buyer, and seller alone is a tribute to the community at large within itself, sustaining a market where value is greater than profit. Again, where value is greater than profit. Ensuring the transaction online or in person is mutually beneficial to all parties involved. But what came first, the seller or the deal? How has the used PC market evolved over the past few years? Has it been, or has its worth been devalued by scammers and price gougers? We've seen a lot of that over the last past couple of years. We're slowly rolling out of the tech demic. We're going to talk about that a little bit down the road. So again, do be sure to hang out for the full duration of this live stream. And I want to welcome you too, if you haven't yet, to hit that like button for me. Hit the like button for me. Let's get this out in front of as many viewers as possible. This part of the conversation, this is so essential to everything our community stands for, right? What came first, the seller or the deal? How has the used PC market evolved? How has it evolved? How has it shaped as we're coming out of the tech demic? And has its worth been devalued by scammers and price gougers? We've been dealing with scammers for quite a while. There's always been scammers here on the market. Somebody trying to sell you a graphics card that isn't actually what it is. Or there's some type of it's malfunctioning to some capacity. Maybe it's overheating. Maybe as soon as you can install the graphics card, or you can, let's say if it's the graphics card, you can install the GPU. It gives you a video out, but the moment you go to actually try to put it under an extensive load, like render multiple frames or render an image, it just crashes. Well, there's been scammers on the market for quite a while. The price gougers, well, we've seen an obvious uptick here in the last past couple of years with the GPU shortage and the tech demic being what it is or what it was. But that is essentially what we are discussing in this episode, while of course answering any and all of your questions along the way. If this is your first time here, or if you're a first time viewer, welcome to the Inside the Lab live experience. I'm Terrence, your host and operator of this here ride. And without the way, let's settle up, get geared up, and jump right back into the conversation. I'm a little upset that my restream chat still isn't working right, but it's all good. And WASD moves, or Cliff says, shoot, I'm gonna need to rob a bank to pay for this mess. Can't stay here too long. And you know what? The missus might feel that way, Cliff, as you come rolling in with all those micro center bags. I'm pretty sure she's well aware of how expensive those micro center trips actually amount to. But it's all good, man. Hurry up and get out of there so we don't want you to rob the bank. We want you to stay around. We don't want you to get in any trouble. But jumping right back into the conversation, let's start off with the benefits to buying used PC parts. I guess you could say the benefits to going used, because there are, like all things in life, pros and cons, right? Cliff says, oh, the used space was in a mess for a while, no doubt. Oh, it was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. We saw GTX 1070s for 500 USD. We saw RTX 2060s for about 800 USD. We saw RX 580s for about 600 USD, between 5 to 600 USD. We saw, even cards going back a previous generation, 470s and 480s selling for about 3 to 400 USD. If the used market was a mess, not the CPUs and motherboards weren't as affected as much as they were when Ryzen 5000 first dropped, and those CPUs were in short supply and ironically high demand. Or was it really just that the supply was so short, we had this illusion that demand was incredibly high? Because we saw the 5600X. I did a video about it. Of course, it hasn't aged well. It was trending at the moment, but we did a video about it. at the time. And if you want to see what those prices were like at that time, go back and watch that video. It's heavily documented. I believe even in the thumbnail, it's heavily documented. But we saw 5600Xs going for 2.5 times their MSRP, over 1,000 USD. Easy, easy. And it was an absolute hot mess, like Cliff says. And I see my man Tricion in the building. Tricion, what's happening, T? It's good to see you, T. Man, I've been working with T behind the scenes with the music. Guys, if you, let me switch back here really fast. I've been rocking with Tricion behind the scenes and in the music scene. And this track here, I'm gonna play real quick. This is the Tricion. This is the song we open up with Tricion. I know it might be a little loud, but this is the Tricion track right here, y'all. Great stuff. But yeah, we opened up with that song, and you're going to hear more of his music in videos, especially here as we kick off and get back into the content. Flicks and the content flow. But Tricion is in the house. It's good to see you, T. Tricion says, yeah, man, long time no see. About the music, just added like 10 more beats. Nice. You know what? That 30-second clip you uploaded inspired me to want to consider doing a short skit for the merch, as the merch will start to become some of the actual sponsors of other videos. I did order me a couple of shirts and some hoodies. Teespring takes a while to ship. I'm gonna apologize to anybody now who has either bought merch in the past or has considered buying merch in the future. Teespring does take a little while to ship, and I've been waiting about 3 weeks now for the items I've ordered. But do keep a lookout for some content behind merch, and of course some updated merch designs being added there as well. But did want to play on the idea of doing a short merch skit and also working on something a little bit more in depth and a little bit more dope that's going to represent the merch in a really nice way. But yeah, TMC says sweet. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of you have known I've rapped. I might have like harmonized or sung or tried to sing on the live stream. I'm not really a singer, but I did, toy with the idea of recording exclusive music just for the channel or just for the content to enhance the show or to enhance other aspects of the channel, or just as another alternative outlet for PC gamers, because obviously all the content, lyrics, and material would be centered around PC gaming, because that's what brings us all together as PC gamers from all different walks and lives and backgrounds, and even areas in the world. Here is brother Tricion is over in the Netherlands, and my man Cliff is down in Texas, beautiful state. Sparta Rose over there in California, another beautiful state. TMZ, I'm not sure where you're located. I think you're here stateside. And our guy Mike, right? I'm trying to remember Mike's username right here, but Mike is also over in China. So we got a lot of different friends and fam all over the place. Tricion says shorts, TikTok reels are super good for views, man. I've been using it too, and lately been getting me 500 views a day. Yeah, and especially here on YouTube Shorts, I experimented with shorts too and saw some, positive metrics. You do get a large spike in views, and then they kind of trickle on down depending on what the short is. But reels are really fun. I think I enjoy making reels more than I do YouTube shorts, because it just feels like it's all fun and games, whereas a YouTube short, there has to be some type of business decision made behind it. Although I have experimented with just fun YouTube shorts, not me really, with me talking, and with me talking, and of course with me just doing quick edits and just trying to switch it up. And thank you, Mrs. Thank you, Mrs. Mod. Han Slow Mo. Right, Han Slow Mo, that's our guy Mike, representing over there in China. But yeah, I'm not on TikTok. Something I will consider exploring. Although I thought about, instead of TikTok, going back and rebranding the Twitch stream to create some really neat content when I go back and we move into the studio and we set up the studio inside the Lab Studio 2.0. I think it'd be a great behind the scenes vlog to just experiment with, among other things. And also like when I'm just out and about doing things, because I've been mobile a lot here recently, and I did post 3 mobile vlogs of me just talking in my car. It very much was an experiment, but because I've been mobile a lot and just haven't been able to set up the camera, and I'm limited in space, so it is a bit tedious now more than ever. But again, you got to keep rocking and rolling. You got to keep going. TMZ, that rhyme too, by the way. TMZ says, I'm in Oregon. Nice. Okay. Nice over there, out there in the flatlands. Beautiful state as well. So we got a lot of friends and fam just either all over here in the States or all over the globe, period. And that's a beautiful thing. It's one of the reasons that why I keep coming back to YouTube. You can do this on other platforms, sure, but having a conversation with people all over the world um, is super accessible and easy right here on YouTube. But reels are fun. If you're not following me, follow me on Instagram. I do plan on doing more reels content, especially when the merch rolls around. But TMZ, I'm sorry, Tricion, it was good to see you. Tricion says, "Yep, it's great. Still, well, it's great. You still made it here again." Yeah, and actually, I was in the Instagram video I posted earlier today. Was unsure how I would feel, so I was unsure if we were even going to host a live stream today. But like a viewer in the comment chat in the chat said, "Is it actually going to happen today or actually happen tomorrow?" I said, "No, it's definitely going to happen today. It has to happen today." So I took some Robitussin, took some medicine, and just finished up my second cough drop, and so far so good. But again, what's important is the delivery of the value delivery, right? The versus or content value versus production value. So long as I sound good on you guys' side and everything looks great, then yeah, we're gonna keep rocking and rolling right into this conversation. So let's jump back here. We were just jumping into the meat and bones of this live stream, and that is the benefits to buying used PC parts. I was mentioning that there are pros and cons to buying used PC parts, and especially in this current market. And markets change like the weather. But when you're buying used PC parts, or one of the biggest pros you should assess when looking to buy used PC parts is the rediscovering of hidden or lost value, because sellers are looking to save on an upgrade potentially, and most buyers are looking to save on the upgrade. So if you are looking to sell your graphics card, let's say Triceon looking to sell his GPU, maybe he's already upgraded, so he wants to get some of that money back as the seller. Now the buyer is looking to save on the upgrade. Let's say they're coming from an integrated CPU or I'm sorry, integrated graphics or an older GPU, and able to make a generational leap, say from a 9 series or a 7 series all the way up to a 20 series GPU. So the buyer is looking to save, and the seller is looking to save on their upgrade. Most buyers are looking to get the most value that they can, especially in terms of price to performance. Most buyers are looking to get the most value for their money. Not so much sellers. They've already made the upgrade. They already have in possession the graphics card or CPU, motherboard, RAM allotment. They already have the value. They've already used the value. Now it's time to pass that value on down to someone else. That is rediscovering the hidden or lost value. That's one of the benefits to buying used PC parts, is that you're able to save on the upgrade. Rather, that's because you're tight with money, or you want to allocate those funds to another area of your system. Let's say you want to run your games at a high quality. You want a game at 1080p. You want to be able to maximize your graphics settings beyond medium or low at that resolution. Because to segue into the next bullet point of this conversation, and that is the benefits to buying used PC parts, is that it starts with the games you want to play. But buying parts on the used PC market, you will often find that you can get the most value for your money, especially when you're able to take your time and not impulse buy. You see it and you say, "Oh man, that has to be a good deal." If it looks too good to be true, sounds too good to be true, then it probably is too good to be true. Take your time. We had a viewer. I'm not going to mention their name unless they pop up, and some of you might remember. But we had a viewer in this community be scammed on a GPU that they bought offline, and that is because they just bought it quickly. They thought it was a good deal. They say, "Hey, you know what? I can get this car right now. I'll hurry up and buy it. I won't bother to look or research to make sure I'm actually getting what I pay for. And they didn't do that, and they ended up getting scammed. It almost deterred them away from wanting to even build a PC. That's the last thing any of us should want any potential PC enthusiast. And then when I say PC enthusiast, that doesn't mean you have to be along the spectrum of a 2,000, 1,000, between $1,000 and $2,000 plus system to be an enthusiast. You don't necessarily need enthusiast hardware. And by I say enthusiast hardware, I mean you don't need a 360 millimeter AIO. You don't need a graphics card with 10 gigabytes or more of VRAM, 32 gigabytes of DDR4 or 5, 1 terabyte NVMe M.2. What matters the most is, did you get the most value for your money? If you had $800 or $900 to spend, did you buy components within that budget allotment that will be able to deliver on your expectations? And it starts with the type of games you want to play. That's something we preach a lot about here in this community. Maybe I'll clip this out. We've talked about shorts and things, but maybe I'll clip this out for a short because we talk about this in the community. And so if you are not in need of, say, an RTX 2070, an 8 gigabyte 2070 or 2070 Super, because you really just want to play low quality games, or you want to play a blend of high quality games and low quality games at 1080p high settings, right? Then you don't necessarily need to spend that amount of money on that graphics card. You can lower down and put other parts of that budget in other areas, because most 20 series GPUs, at least from the used market here on this side, still a little high. Still a little high, and that is because I think that they are still very much in high demand. Most people want RTX 2060s, which you can pick up for a little over $400. So if you find yourself in that price range of, say, well, I want a graphics card under 500 USD, where should I start at? If it's a 20 series, you might can get away with a 2060, maybe a 2060 Super if you're able to get lucky on the used market, or a 16 series GPU, which are still very much capable cards for most gamers, especially those looking to just break into this sector. Let me get caught up in the chat here really fast. As Cliff says, I know that the 30 series and Radeon 60 cards are in stock and available. I have seen it drive down used price, especially on 10 series local cards. Yeah, and we're gonna, I'm hoping we have time, but you know what? We're gonna jump right over on. We're gonna look at some of the two of the biggest online platforms for buy and use. Not eBay, because prices are still a little skewed over there, but between OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace, between the two, there are economical graphics cards available. I've seen a Founders Edition GTX 1080 selling for $249. That's incredible, because just 4 months ago, you couldn't find a GTX 1080 for less than 700 USD if you got lucky, between 6 to 700 USD. That's still a little insane, because the graphics card is coming up on almost 5 years old now. And Cliff says, too many people bought high and are refusing to eat the drop in online markets prices like eBay, though. 1080 Ti is on par with 3060. Why pay more than 3060 for 1080? 3060 even gets better feature set. Yeah, absolutely. I passed on a $275 ROG Strix 1080 Ti the other day. And Tristan says, damn. Yeah, that's actually a pretty decent price. And I hear you, and I agree 110%. And if one, say, wouldn't look or be interested in RTX features, let's say one wasn't interested in RTX features, and you just wanted a high VRAM allotment graphics card, something that can still perform, the 3060 with its 12 gigabyte, I mean, it has 1 gigabyte more VRAM, but you figure most 3060s are selling for between I would say between 4 to 500 USD, depending on where you're at or where the retailer is. But $275 for a 1080 Ti, that's some incredible value there. Especially once you consider that you could play in 4K. Might have to turn down some settings. you could play, depending on the game, great 1440p card, and even better yet, a great 1080p card if you were looking for high refresh rates or high FPS gaming. But 275 for 1080 Ti, things are looking to get back to where they were before the tectonic. Which platform or which site was that on, Cliff, where you saw that $275 ROG Strix? As Cliff says, RX 6600 best bang for buck card, in my opinion. Yeah, and especially if again, I believe the RX 6600 is going for under 400 USD. So it makes it an even better or an even more enticing add to your system. Pair with an i7 or an R7 or even an R5. Sparta Rule says, I have seen so many 30 series cars flood the used market in retail stores. Yeah, there was one seller on the Facebook marketplace I saw where they were selling an abundance of RTX 30 series cards. You could tell they might have been involved in the in the scalping market, and when cards are being scalped up and bought up really fast. But like Cliff said, they're not quite ready to lower the cost or lower the price on sites like eBay. I think eBay being the most accessible to people all over the globe, sellers know that people are willing to pay that slight premium still for the graphics cards. But once NVIDIA 40 series and 70 series over on AMD sides roll out, or over on AMD side roll out, then we could also very much see that change. We could maybe see them now ready to, they may not have a choice. They may not have a choice, especially when you see 4060's potential. If we're just going to follow, let me switch back here really fast. If we're going to follow the NVIDIA leapfrog process they like between each generation, if we're getting 3070 performance or greater from a 4060, then it lowers the, I guess you could say, the value on an RTX 3060. Those sellers who have been hoarding them and refusing to lower the price may not have a choice, because now the performance is going to lean in favor of the upcoming 40 series. And I normally don't like to report on rumors, but just looking at some of the early design leaks and performance metrics that have been put out for the upcoming 7900 XT and 7700 XT and their multi-chiplet design, and how insane the power requirements are going to be, you never know. There still may be interest in 30 series cards, even if the performance isn't greater than even if performance metrics aren't greater than 40 series cards, because you don't necessarily need to upgrade just because the latest and greatest has come out. We talked about that too, being in that forced upgrade mindset, feeling like you need to upgrade just because something new has come out. Well, for most of us who are longtime enthusiasts, you may want to experience, you may want to be an early adopter, which is fine too. But for someone looking to jump into the field or jump into the mode, this may not be a feasible option for them, especially if they're looking to just start out. I don't care how much money you have, fam. Regardless of your budget, I still recommend you start with the type of games you want to play and the refresh rate and resolution you want to play. If you tell me, well, 1440p, 144 hertz, I want to play games like Elden Ring and Cyberpunk, Battlefield 2042. If you want to play Battlefield 2042, you want to play, Horizon Forbidden West and Dawn, God of War, you want to play quality games at this refresh rate and resolution, then your needs will be very much different than someone who's looking to play those same games at 1080p on a 60 hertz monitor. Trisan says, I think my go-to card would be a used 3070 or 3080 in terms of return of ROI or return of investment. Yeah, both cards, solid cards, especially the 3080 at 10 gigabytes of VRAM and the 3070 at 8. Like if you don't have any aspirations to game at a higher resolution, maybe 1080p high settings, ultra settings, those are the type of That those are the type of graphic presets you want to run your games. Maybe you want to play games like GTA Online, but you want to use mods. You still want the detail in your games, but you also want your FPS to be as high as possible or up above 60 FPS to coincide with your 60 hertz monitor. But if you came across a used 3070, so like Cliff said, he saw a 270 an ROG Strix 1080 Ti for 275. Well, if you saw an RTX 3070 for about $100 more used, which one would you go with? Definitely the 3070. Definitely the 3070. Sean D says your audio is pretty quiet, by the way. All right, let me see if I can turn it up. Let me see if that. All right. Thank you, Sean D. Sean D, it's nice to see. I think the first time we had the opportunity of rapping with you, Sean D. Let me know if that's a little better. Let me know if that's a little louder. Do apologize. It has been a while. Normally our live shows are on the weekends, but it's been a little while since we've been live. But we're kicking right in here into the fold. If you have any questions, Sean D, about anything we discussed throughout the duration of this live stream, do let us know. Let us know where you are at in your journey as a PC gamer, as a PC enthusiast. You already have your build. Like, let us know what your specs are. You looking to upgrade, or yeah, just let us know. This community. We're pretty open, and we love talking about, you know, PC gaming and PC hardware. All builds and budgets are welcome. Trisan says sound is better. Oh, thanks, y'all. I mean, my bad. I do apologize about that. Ironically, before the live stream, I ran into some audio issues. My mic wasn't even picking up. So I think it might have reset all my values. Let me see. Oh, nope. I still have all my filters and everything. I'm just going to turn it up a little more. Let me know if there's any abnormal popping sounds or any audio glitches. Thank you again, Sean D, for letting me know. And Tricion says, yep, sound is better. I recently used an ultra wide 1440p monitor with my 3080 Ti, and holy damn, it ran like butter and looked amazing. Yes, yes, yes. Let me get the air horn for that resolution, because 1440p, 2560 by 1440p, that's that's a good resolution to be at, especially if you've spent more than a year at 1080p and you have the hardware to complement that resolution, which Trisound certainly does with 3080 Ti. What games have you played, Triceon, so far? I know like Cliff uses an ultra wide 3440 by 1440p. That was my previous monitor on my old setup. Right now I'm using my 4K monitor, but man, did I love gaming at ultra wide at 3440 by 1440p. There isn't a game that I didn't fire up and I said, "Oh man, this looks amazing." This looks amazing. Peripheral on the left and right looks dope. From Resident Evil Village to Cyberpunk 2077, um, just to name a few, all of those games looked glorious at that resolution. Tracy says, I'm definitely going to buy an ultra wide next year after I purchase a few next gen cards. I've recently been missing out like all of you have been saying. Yeah, I remember Tracy a bit like season one of the live experience show. We was trying to get Tracion on board. We was telling him like, hey dude, between myself and Cliff and other users, we were like, bro, once you switch over to an ultra wide monitor, you're gonna be like, damn, this is what I've been missing. This is what I've been missing. I mean, your games, those extra pixels, that extra bit of detail does help. And when you're able to run it at a high resolution, at a high refresh rate as well, say 144 hertz is most affordable 1440p monitors have been pushing now, around 144 hertz. You have the hardware to complement that resolution and refresh rate. It takes your experience to the next level. Very much like what Triceon has done with switching from a 1080p monitor, I believe in a 20 Super series, a 2070 Super, I believe, to a 3080 Ti, and now at that resolution and refresh rate. That is what it is. That is what it is all about, y'all. That right there, that is what it's all about. And Cliff says, Tresion, ultra wide, that's what I'm saying. Looking at one of the new quantum dot OLED ones. Whoa, baby. Cliff likes going on out on his experience, and that's much respect, much love, because what we say around here in this community is that your monitor is the window to your PC soul. So you want it to be the next to near centerpiece to everything that you're going to look to get out of your system, from games to media consumption, just watching YouTube, like you're watching, oh, sorry, like you're watching me now, just watching YouTube videos. It is the window to your PC soul. Therefore, it is only appropriate that you pair your monitor, you pair your system with the monitor that can very much complement each other, complement one another. Trisan says, well, I only played Cyberpunk, which, yeah, it looks good at 2560 by 1440p. I've tested it between 4K. At the time, I tested it at 4K, 1440p, and 1080p. But yes, it does look great at with those extra details. GTA 5 modded and Red Dead Redemption 2, but they were all free. Oh, nice. And I know Red Dead Redemption 2 probably looks amazing at 2560 by 1440p. That's a game Sparta Rules has been getting me to play now for a while. It's just that when I play an open world game like Red Dead Redemption 2, it has to be one I can fully immerse myself in and find time to play. I haven't finished Dying Light 2, but I think I'm getting close to the end, or I'm at a point where, okay, I don't really care to do the side missions. I just kind of want to be done with it and get it out the way. Last time we talked, I said killing zombies wasn't as fun anymore. The parkour was okay, but I just kind of want to get through the story now and move on to the next game. As Trisan says, I really got to educate myself on these monitors. I use the LG 34GN850 Ultra Gear Nano IPS. I'm currently running on my 3080, my 3080 Ti's in my attic mining because it's super loud. I don't really notice a different FPS, so. But at that time, I was using that one. Gotcha. Okay. And Cliff says, been on a bit of a car buying spree. Not gonna lie, gonna pump the brakes. Nothing wrong with that, Cliff. I mean, hey, stock up, fam. Stock up. And Sean D says, my 3080 Ti, or which one do you got, Ti or Ti? According to NVIDIA, it's Ti, but we've all been saying Ti. But according to NVIDIA, it's Ti. Sean says, my 3080 Ti is loud too. Was disappointed in undervolt / underclocking to try and help. Excuse me. Did undervolting and underclocking, did it help with the noise? And which 3080 Ti are you currently running, Sean? And Tricion? Which is it? Founders, reference, add-in board? Do let us know. And Tricion says, I won't be buying anything until next gen releases. Funny stuff. I was talking to Sparta Rules, as we'll shift back here and jump back into the conversation. I was talking to Sparta Rules, and I said, you know what? Not that it won't happen, because NVIDIA has shareholders, AMD as well. They have shareholders they have to answer to. But if 40 series didn't even drop this year, I don't think a lot of us would be upset. That's an opinion, but I don't think a lot of us would be upset. But I feel you there. I'm going to see what AMD brings in their 70 series. They're in this multi-chiplet design. I'm very eager to explore and experiment with that. That's kind of where I want to see what the benefit, if there is any, to a multi-chiplet design with their upcoming high-end 70 series GPU. Excuse me. Tricion says, to Sean, I even replaced it, but it's just not enough. Temps are way better, but it's still super loud. I got the Founders Edition. I really regret buying it. Okay. And Cliff says, same here. I need to do some flipping, trading, and selling in preparation for that big Radeon 7900 XT. Well, you know what, Cliff, I have been meaning to reach out to you over on Twitter to see what, if you get a list together of some things you want to sell and prices, do let me know. I will reach out to you on Twitter for that. Hey, and again, if you're not following me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I've been more so feeding content updates as a YouTuber on Twitter. So you definitely want to follow me over there. It's great. And I will follow you back. But good stuff. We were talking about the benefits to buying used. And one of the biggest benefits was you're able to save on your upgrade or on your acquisition of a GPU or motherboard, or let's say you want to upgrade your CPU. Let's say you're on an AM4 socket and you have a Ryzen 5 1600X and it's starting to show its age. With a proper BIOS update, potentially you could upgrade. Your upgrade path can reach as far as a Ryzen 5000 series CPU, maybe even a 5900X, depending on the chipset or depending on your motherboard's Ryzen compatibility features and the proper BIOS update. that may be something you can explore, because then you're able to say you want a faster CPU for a higher FPS output, or you do other things on your system like edit video or edit photos, or maybe you work on video games, maybe you're a developer, so you're able, that upgrade is twofold for you, not just necessarily in the graphics department. Maybe you are perfectly content with your graphics card. Maybe that's a GTX 980, a little dated, still able to hold its weight depending on the type of games you want to play. And Sean says, yes, or yeah, helps a bit keeping temps under 80C. Anyways, it's an MSI Ventus 3X 3080 Ti. Thought about repadding, but I am unsure if it'll be worth it. Haven't seen anyone repad my card. Okay. Um, I mean, what games you play, Sean? Well, I mean, what games are you seeing temps exceed 80C? 80C is about normal, especially for those cards. Although I do believe that's a three fan cooler shroud. But there could be other variables. It could be your case. Ambient temperatures play a significant role. Do keep in mind your ambient temperatures will also play a role, but there's repadding, as you said. Not sure if it'll be worth it. I would run some other GPU stress tests to see how high it really gets under a non-gaming load. His Trisound says, nah, your temps are fine. If you want more FPS, you could just do a BIOS flash. Founders Edition cards get 121C at 100% fan speed on the memory. Wow. Well, I imagine you don't want to run your card that hot over prolonged times, and I imagine that's why you're mining on your 3080 Ti Triceon, as it's able to sustain itself at high temperatures over prolonged periods of time mining. But gaming, 80C, like Triceon mentioned, Sean, it's actually not bad. The noise, it might be just is what it is. Most people I've read aren't completely bothered by noise because they either will game with the headset on, or they have a robust speaker setup to where their GPU noise isn't as much as an issue. You may consciously know it's there, but it's not bothering you per se. My 3090 is a little loud, but only because I try to run it at a slightly higher fan speed curve, about 60 to 70%, just to keep it cooled. Maybe the FPS difference might be somewhere between 2 to 3, keeping it cool, but I'm more so about the life of the GPU itself. I want it to be able to run as long as possible, I guess you could say as far as possible and as long as possible, if you will. But all good stuff. Which, speaking of buying, one of the benefits to buying PC parts is that you're able to use PC parts. Used, keyword there is used. Is that you're able to fill a void. That void previously was GPUs being so high, and graphics cards are still slightly expensive and will account for more than 50% of your budget in most cases. So if your GPU is 600, or if your budget is about 1200, expect your graphics card to take up at least between $600 to $700 of that budget. Especially when especially if you know the type of games you want to play. Let's say that's Warhammer 3, like Sean. You know you want to play games like Warhammer, or games that are heavy on simulation. You know you're going to want a fast CPU. If you're gaming at 1080p ultra settings, then a graphics card with at least 6 to 8 gigabytes of VRAM will also be able to get it done. But in most cases, the used market is still the proper place to snag a GPU, especially if you know where to look. Now, the market has shifted and has changed drastically over the past couple of weeks. I see RTX 3050s, 3060s, like Sparta Rules and Cliff mentioned earlier in this show. We see them across the board. They are in stores, B&H, Best Buy, Micro Center. If you're able to travel to a Micro Center or you have one close to you, you go into a Micro Center, you really will be able to save on buying a GPU. because they are available. And Micro Center will slightly lower their prices because they don't ship. They want to get you in the store. If you worked in retail, then you know that their goal is to get you into the store. So you just don't buy a GPU. You might want to buy a new keyboard. You might want to buy a mouse pad. You might want to buy a new gaming headset. You know, you might want to buy an extra SSD or storage device. Their goal is to get you to the store. That enticing invite is going to come in the form of GPUs not only being available, but priced slightly lower than some of their biggest online competitors who may even ship. So if you're able to get to a Micro Center and you're looking for a card and you're watching now on this show, I highly recommend you try to make your way down to a Micro Center. They are it far and few in between. Like even here myself over on the East Coast in the tri-state area, there are about 3 Micro Centers within an hour, within like an hour distance of each other, and it's not that convenient, but still worth it for me, even myself, to go to. Sean says Warhammer 3 gets to 85C if I don't undervault. I'm just picky about the noise, lol. Having Mesh 5C. Oh, okay, no, that's a glorious case. And it's okay to be picky about. I mean, your PC is your investment, y'all. We talk about that a lot also in this community. Your PC is an investment into your experience. And it's okay to be nitpicky about those things. And just like Sean did, to those who are watching, maybe that's you too. Just like Sean did, you try to find ways to get around that. Undervault or underclock your GPU. Try to see if you can maintain ambient temperatures a little better. Try to introduce cooler air into the environment your CPU is being housed in. Because so long as your CPU is able to breathe cool, then it'll also keep your components running nice and cool, all the way down to your CPU, whether it's being cooled by air or it's being cooled by a radiator. And even then, you have to keep in mind that the hot air is being pushed off of the radiator and around your case. And if your system is pulling that air in and relying on that air to cool itself, it's not going to do it properly because that air is now warm and saturated with heat. And Tristan says, yeah, me too. I really don't understand why NVIDIA thinks it's okay to let them run so hot. But after a repad, the GPU temps don't go above 74C core and 90 degrees C on memory at default. Fan curve. Yeah, I mean, and I wonder if that's because it's a different in thermal paste. Could be. But that 121C, that is a little warm. Yeah, definitely. All right, let's switch back. All good stuff, y'all. Keep it coming. Keep it coming, because I will say this for those in the audience and those of you who are without a GPU or you're looking to get a GPU, you're currently in the market for a GPU, you may have to compromise in the short term. That is, play games at 720p low settings, maybe even 1080p low settings. But your PC at the end of the day will have long-term upgrade potential. Over on Twitter, me and Cliff was talking about the 6500, I believe, where and how many believe that graphics card doesn't have a place. If you look at the benchmarks, that graphics card definitely can get it done at 1080p between low settings to medium settings, somewhere in between there, depending on the game. But it can definitely get the job done. 720p high settings or 1080p low to medium settings, depending on the type of games you want to play. You could be a little on the younger side and you just want to play games like Roblox. Do kids still play Roblox? I'm not sure. My kids have gotten a little older since I've started doing YouTube, so. But I think I did catch my daughter playing Roblox, but she was playing on her phone. But for the most part, you may want to play games that aren't as graphically demanding, and that's just something you can start out with. That's not necessarily your end game. That's not where you will necessarily be in 6 months or even a year from now. That's just where you have to start today. You could still very much upgrade to a better GPU. Say you rock that 6400, it's an under $300 card, in most cases between $279 and $323. Use that card for 6 months, 8 months, upgrade to a 3060 or 3070 when the prices drop, or potentially even a 4060. And your system will take you, in terms of an upgrade, a generational upgrade, will take your experience and leapfrog it to a whole nother level. You'll be able to run games at a higher quality, potentially upgrade your monitor, which is what I would recommend one would start at. if you have a graphics card and you're like, oh, I'm ready for more. If that's a 1080p 60 hertz monitor, consider upgrading your monitor before. Excuse me. So as you can see, I'm still dealing. I still have the cough, and I try to mute and walk away. I don't want to. I'm pretty sure that sounds it doesn't sound very pleasing to the ears. But Tricia says I'll be getting some. Let me get caught up here really fast. I'm sorry, because Cliff says the power draw on these cards are getting ridiculous. RTX 4000 are going to drink it with the straw. I've been reading some reports that are very staggering in terms of power draw, and I'm not sure if between the GPU manufacturer, excuse me, manufacturers, is it their plan to say to in order to acquire more performance, especially in terms of pure rasterization, do we need to feed them more power? Do they just need to be power hungry cards because we need to maximize on performance? And in order to do that, you're going to need a graphics card that's able to pull as much power as possible. Trisound says they are going to drink it with a whole industrial pump. Yeah, I mean, Trisound says I'll be getting some solar panels, but my electric bill is going to be insane. I got to move to Texas, bro. Come on down. Definitely, hey man, come on down, Trisound. Come on down. I'm not in Texas, but Texas is a beautiful state. Come on down to there, man. I think you would love it down there in Texas. A lot of good music too. A lot of good artists and musicians out there in Texas. Cali too. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Sparta Rose. I got to make my West Coast trip out that way. So you never know. I might pop up in your neck of the woods. You just never know. But so those are some of the benefits to buying used PC parts. With the biggest one being you're able to fill a void with your system or with your build. This has been especially true over the past couple months and even the past couple years, where GPU prices have been about 2.5 to 3x. They're selling for 3.5 times or 3x in their MSRP. And so that really priced many of us out of these cards, leaving us to compromise with lower end cards or leaving some people just unable to finish their build. Excuse me. But when you are buying from the used market, you're able to save as a buyer because the seller is looking to gain some of their money back on an upgrade they already made. And you, the seller, are looking to find or rediscover that lost or hidden value within that component, whether that be a motherboard somebody had sitting around and you were able to snag, say, a Ryzen 5 3600 on the low, and then you can pick up a B450 motherboard for like $50-$60 and a 16 gigabyte kit of DDR4 for about another $50, and then you're looking at a total motherboard CPU RAM package for close to a little over 300 USD. Once you have that already ironed out, then you can say, hey, I have at least another 300, or I didn't want to spend no more than 900 on my system. I have my CPU, motherboard, and RAM. I picked it up on the used market. I was able to save some money, so now I'm able to put more money into my GPU. Now, I will say when it comes to buying parts though, like a CPU and motherboard, I would try to wait to buy those parts when you are able to install them immediately. Not like buy them and sit on them for a couple months. When you're able to buy and install immediately to verify that they actually work. Sites like OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace does offer buyer protection. So do keep that in mind. You want to verify that those parts do work as they are described, especially when the seller doesn't list any defects or any issues with the hardware. Triceon says, one day, guys. Yeah, we got to get Triceon down here. We gotta get Triceon over here in the States, even for a visit. T. Sean says we pay like 36 cents per 1,000 wattage here in California. Triceon says for me it's currently 32 cents per kilowatts, but the past month had an average of 51 cents per kilowatts for me. Wow. Yeah, believe it or not, I think in my state we pay it's closer to 75 cents per kilowatts, which is weird because I don't think our state is really heavy on the grid as is California does, quite naturally, but man, it's still very much high. And you have to keep in mind that as PC gamers, we don't want to start having to be conscious about our power bill or our electric bills when we're making an upgrade. But as 40 series is panning out, and even I've seen some pretty high power requirements for upcoming 70 series AMD graphics cards. We will have to wait and see. And as I get back into a yeah, 75 cents is high. Yeah, it is. And I'm not sure. I mean, everybody's electric provider is different, but our service provider is Delmarva, and they essentially have a monopoly on providing electricity. The name implies Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. Within that area, that's the only company you have as an option. So they're able to, they're able to draft up those practices, but it is what it is. Tri-Cent says, but last week we had 2 days of free electricity. It's really weird here. Oh, nice, man. You know what? I wish our internet providers. I wish our power providers did that for us. Maybe they do, just not mine. All right, jumping back, all good stuff, y'all. Keep the conversation going over there in the chat, even if I'm unable to, even if I am unable to read it back. All good stuff. So far, so good for there not to have been a live stream for almost 1 month. Before we jump into the next card, I do want to say that hurt, fam. That hurt. On some real, that hurt. Going not being live for almost a month is so out of character for the content schedule of this brand and of this channel that in the back of my mind I was concerned that it would have unreversing or effects that weren't reversible in terms of momentum and keeping the ball rolling, even with slowing down content uploads in between. But again, I hate to sound repetitive, and I don't even like saying hate a lot, but we are getting back into our normal swing of content because we have a lot of juicy conversations to pick up. A lot of them have been side conversations and side discussions here in this live show. And Cliff says, I've been extremely happy with thermals on my big Sapphire card, Triceon. Coolest running high performances GPU I've ever seen. Both my 6500, my RX 6600, cool as a cucumber. I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably, between the both of them, 65 and 66, neither one of those cards probably breaks 61C under a typical average gaming load, I imagine. Furmark being an United 64 test being notwithstanding, but in a typical standard gaming sesh, I'm gonna say those cards probably don't break 61C. Could be wrong, but I'm like 70-80% sure that those cards don't break 61C. All good stuff. So those were the benefits to buy and use. But what about saving and losing money on the used market, right? Like when something is built to last, how many miles can you get out of legacy hardware? Because this is one of the topics that's brought up when you try to even suggest a potential buyer heads over to the used market. They are concerned about the component not lasting as long, or it dying. So let's say it's a graphics card, it dies a month later. Maybe your CPU only lasts a month, or your power, whatever the component is, because computer hardware, unfortunately, they're non-binary. They will work until they are unable to work anymore. Very seldomly where you get weird glitches where you can't repeat the issue. If your motherboard won't post, then it just won't post. It's not that it won't post today and then maybe it'll post tomorrow. It's not like a car where it might be hit or miss. Once they stop functioning, it just stops functioning. That's the end of the line. So you will find yourself saving and losing money on the used market. You can find a wide range of PC parts on the used market, but the most sought after component is a graphics card. Is your graphics card. Now, your motherboards, what have you, those will essentially last for as long as they can. I have an X58 motherboard that's about 15 years old that I could still drop into 6-core, 12-thread 5670, a Xeon 5675, X5675. It'll fire right up like a champ because it's been well maintained. It's been cleared of dust. I've made sure it hasn't been exposed to large quantities of heat over time. But right now, the most sought after component is a graphics card. Now, a GPU, or again, any component for that matter, will last as long as it can, so long like I mentioned with my X58 motherboard, so long as it is properly maintained. But most cards on the used market right now are between 5 to 10 years old. Much of the cards we brought up, especially 10 series cards. Then you could also factor in, you may see a couple 900 series or 700 series NVIDIA cards. Or over on the AMD side, you might see a couple R5s and R7s, 400 and 500 series cards, or even 300 series cards, like like the Fury X 390X, right? One of my favorite AMD cards from past time. I thought that was a great card. And then you also might see affordable entry level cards somewhere along between a 2 to 6 gigabyte range, which is great for 1080p mid-high setting builds. But if your needs outgrow the life expectancy of the used component, then that is golden and glorious repurposed value. That is repurposed value right there. I mentioned that you may be hesitant to either save or lose money on the used market, but that used component, that graphics card you bought, if you only had expectations for it to last about 3 or 4 months, just to get you, just to finish your build, just because you've been eager to play, GTA 5 heavily modded, or you want to play God of War and you don't have a PlayStation, so you want to play God of War, or you want to play a PC exclusive game. Uh, going with going with the card that you had originally only planned on using for a couple months, but it actually outgrows the life expectancy of that, then you have rediscovered that, or repurposed, you have rediscovered that lost value, that repurposed value. It's a golden and glorious experience when when the life expectancy of the used hardware outgrows your expectations for how long you even thought it would last. Again, 6 months, 7 months. If it's a graphics card that's 10 years old and you got a year's worth out of it, and you're now able, keyword there being is you're now able to upgrade to a faster GPU, then you may have used up any bit of value that card may have left. And now you could still very much pass it on down to the next person, so long as it is functioning as it should, the way it should. Let me get caught up in the chat here really fast. Let me see. Tracion says, sounds good, man. I hope next gen AMD has good hash rates, because I kind of want to pick up one or two. This generation was sad in terms of hash rate. I've seen a lot of good things about them. So, yeah, and I believe Tracion is referring to mining. Again, not necessarily my wheelhouse. I haven't touched much on it. And you know what I say about GPU miners? It's not up to me, or anybody for that matter, in my opinion, to tell you what you should do and how you should do with your money. And I don't blame GPU miners for the shortage, because I believe it's up to AMD and NVIDIA to meet the expectation needs for both market sectors, and that is miners and DIY enthusiasts or gamers. Sean says, I love my Sapphire 5700, now a miner card, but it is nice and quiet. And that, whoa, you know what? All 5000 series AMD RX cards are still in high demand. I saw a 5500 selling for about $600. That is insane. That is crazy, because those cards must be very popular on the mining scene, because they are still expensive and they are still very much difficult to find at MSRP, let alone a 5600 XT. Forget about it. You're even if you did have the spin, you're probably better off just buying a 6700 XT, or maybe even a 6600 XT, or non-XT, or a 3060 would probably be a better buy for you, simply because you're going to pay more for that 5000 series AMD card. Eclipse says, well, we'll see. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll see. I've been tempted to buy a low-profile 6400, but wife and I are going to Ecuador and Honduras on vacation in September, so I'm supposed to be saving. Good stuff. That sounds like an awesome vacation right there. Ecuador and Honduras. And Triset says, yeah, man, kind of funny how you probably have the most reviews of everyone here, but you don't mind. I respect the love of the hobby, though. Plus, you live in Texas. Yeah, the Cliff has a lot of GPUs. Cliff has a lot of GPUs on hand. If you need a GPU, hit up Brother Cliff. Hit up WASD Moves. Cliff says, yeah, I love the hardware and tinkering, benchmarking, etc. And I love getting my game on. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Except as a content creator, I love talking about it and trying to educate, inform, and entertain with all things related to the segment, but benchmarking is fun, and especially tinkering with different hardware. My original love and interest came with wanting to do that though with older hardware, and it's something I'm very much going to get back to. Triton says, well, there is one positive about miners. Dirt cheap GPUs once crypto inevitably crashes. Yeah, and I know most influencers in this space may or may not recommend mined cards, but that's essentially up to you. Don't let any of us influencers try to persuade you from wanting to do what you feel is right with your money. If you are confident in the if you're confident in buying the card from the seller, they were 100% honest. They told you how long the card has been mined on, what they've actually mined, what the fan settings were, if the BIOS has been flashed to say mining BIOS. If they're 100% honest and upfront, then chances are what you're going into, you know what you're going into, and it could very much be worth it. Especially if, again, you could get, if your needs outgrow the life expectancy of that GPU, if you're able to get more value for it longer than what you even originally expected because it was a mined card, then that means the gamble was well worth it. It's a 50-50 gamble, right? There's a chance that as a mined card, it may have a shorter life expectancy, but then there's a chance as a mined card that it'll just operate as normal once you start using it as it's intended, or you may want to start mining too. Um, you have a lot of different options to pursue there. Trisan says, watch LTT's video about testing cards for miners. At most, you have to repaste the card and reflash the card, but usually it's a super good deal. And that's, yeah, I mean, and that's what I had to do with that graphics card I bought, and I did a video, the R9 390X. I had to flash the BIOS and repaste. It was good to go. That's essentially, and but the problem is most buyers aren't comfortable with doing that, with taking apart the graphics card and even reflashing the BIOS. Chances are you have to have another system set up to even get the necessary BIOS for the graphics card. Most aren't comfortable with doing that, but if you're either able to find somebody locally to do it for you, like a Tricion or even a Cliff or myself, then it could be well worth it for the money saved and for the performance value you can get out of said graphics card, especially if it's a card that was in previously in high demand. Your 3060s, your 3070s, your 5700 XTs, just to name a few. But let's switch back here. All good stuff, and thank you for sharing, guys. Thank you for sharing again. Keep the conversation rolling. But yeah, we were talking about, you have the potential to save and lose money on the used market. It's a proper segue considering what we were just discussing, and that is if you have to repaste and reflash the card. If that's all you have to do, then you're not losing any money. You're still saving. It may require you to do a little extra legwork to get it running as it should. But that R9 390X, I paid $75 for at the time of shooting that video. It's a legacy video. It's an older video. It's some classic lab stuff, right? Some very classic lab stuff. I know a lot of you here have seen it, but Sean, I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, but it's an older video where I repaste that card. And I caught a little bit of hell in it too. A lot of people said I use a lot of GPU paste. But I'm like, well, the GPU die is bigger on graphics cards. And the camera being close up really gives the impression that it's a lot when it really isn't. It's a close up shot. But I paid $75 for that graphics card and was able to get a year and a half usage out of it before my son wanted to upgrade to a GTX 1070. He played on that card. GTA 5, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Fortnite. Got great usage out of it, and I only paid $75. I had to reflash the BIOS and repaste the thermal paste, and it was good to go. Great card, and it was a great find, and I bought that off of eBay. But again, when you're able to, in terms of that, like in using the R9 390X as an example, when you're able to, when your needs are able to outgrow the life expectancy of the card, then that's repurposed value. And really, this is what defines the worth and the used market's relevancy. That is hardware, legacy hardware. I don't necessarily like saying older hardware, but legacy hardware like your R7 300 series cards or your R5 excuse me, your R5 and your R7 400 and 500 series cards, or even your NVIDIA 900, 700 series cards. Um, the value, or that is what defines the worth of the used market, and it's the used market's relevancy is when you're able to find cars of that caliber that are, a little seasoned. I guess we can say it's a little seasoned, but still has the performance metric and output to still get it done. I mean, look at the GTX 1060 with 6 gigabytes of VRAM. It's still slower than a 1660 Ti or 1660 Super, but when it comes down to it, when you're able to find a GTX 1060 for about 100 to 150 USD, even with it being about 5 to 6 years old, that's still some incredible value that could be rediscovered there, especially if you're looking to play games that aren't as graphically demanding. And even then, you still may have to compromise. You still may have to, say, lower some of your graphic settings, go from ultra settings, getting about 35 to 45 FPS, which may or may not be playable to you, because what's playable to me may not be playable to you. Maybe you're okay with playing your games at 30 FPS. Maybe you're okay with playing them at 45. Maybe you want that quality and detail in your games. Well, that very much will depend on you and how you want to experience your games. I like detail in my games. I like quality, graphics quality in my games. I also do still very much like a high FPS, or one that exceeds or that hovers closely to my monitor's refresh rate. For my 4K monitor, that's 60 hertz. For my ultra wide, that's 100. So typically when I'm playing my games, I like to be somewhere slightly above either one of those metrics. On my RTX 3090 and my 3440 by 1440p, there really wasn't a game that I threw at it that wouldn't be able to break the barrier, with the exception of Far Cry 6, which was in a weird place when it first came out. I didn't really like Far Cry 6. That was one Far Cry game I started and just never went back and finished. But let's jump into the third content block in this conversation. And that is one benefit, or I guess you could say this is a sub benefit. Apologies on how awkward that card looks, but take advantage of that new used price to performance. We talk about new used price to performance and how it can help you get started with an entry level build. You could buy, or you could pick up a used B450 or X470 motherboard, CPU and RAM, new, all on the used market, but then pick up a new PSU case and GPU, especially when you're able to save money by going with an older chipset or used chipset like an X470 or B450 motherboard. If you're able to communicate with the buyer, you can say, hey, has the BIOS been updated? Has the BIOS been flashed? Am I able to upgrade to, say, a newer Ryzen CPU because I have a 2600? I'm looking to buy a B450 motherboard, a B450 motherboard, or an X chipset. I want an enthusiast chipset motherboard. Has the BIOS been flashed to a BIOS that could support newer CPUs, or would I have to do it? When you're able to communicate with the buyer, this also increases your chances of rediscovering that lost value or that repurposed value. They have already used up the value. Let's say they had an X370 motherboard and they have upgraded to an X570 motherboard. To them, they've gotten everything they could out of that X370 motherboard. You may be coming from an AM3 socket or AM3 Plus socket, or an older Intel an older Intel socket. This could be beneficial to you because now there is still value there. You could still grab a 3600 and an X370 motherboard and probably be somewhere under 200 USD, depending on where you're located. Maybe closer to 3 once you factor in DDR4, but still you'd be in a good starting point. Once you say case, storage, and power supply unit may run you another 150, but then now you have anywhere between another at least 400 USD or $400 to contribute towards a GPU, towards a dedicated graphics card, a discrete card. And that would still put your system under 900 USD. This is where I was hoping we would get back to, and it's that sweet spot of finding or being able to build a system that's capable of running modern games at a mix of 1080p and 1440p for under 1,000 USD. That was tricky based on where graphics cards were 6 months ago. I'm not even going to say years ago because it's shifted so quickly. Okay, that I almost have to say where we were 6 months ago. The beginning of the year, graphics card prices were still high. We talked about it in some of the live shows and content. Graphics cards were still high. But when you try to buy new parts, that when of course you could try to buy new parts, and that also will mean that you have a lower chance of higher failure rates or of components failing. For example, if that's a PSU, of course you don't want your PSU to fail on you, but if you buy new, then there's a lower chance of it failing. Same thing with storage devices and coolers for the most part. And that's because largely in part the price difference is it still favors reliability, especially when you're looking at buying taking advantage of that new used price to performance. If it's components that may have a higher chance of failing, it may be in your best interest to buy those new. But components that will last a long time or last as long as they are properly maintained, motherboard, GPU, I mean your power supply unit, depending on its usage, will depend on its ability to run and won't have and not have a high failure rate. But because the price it may not be that different between buying a new PSU and a used PSU, it could be in your best interest to buy those parts, new parts that have a higher chance of failing. Picking up a used case, so long as the case doesn't have any broken panels or missing screws or a damaged input output headers, anything like that. So long as the case is in good condition, then it's okay to buy a used case. You could probably save $20-$30 compounded. That could equal up to hundreds of dollars. May not seem like a lot, but it could be the difference between, say, 16 gigabyte kit of RAM or 32 gigabyte kit of RAM. I'm sorry, a 500 gigabyte SSD versus a 1 terabyte SSD. Obviously, the more the merrier in terms of storage, especially with games getting larger and larger, especially games as a service. But when you're able to save, you could put that in other places that will give you the most value or that would add to the value of your system. Whether that's a better cooling, a better CPU cooler, going from air to water, or to a switcher from the stock cooler like the Wraith Stealth or the Wraith Prism over an AMD side or Intel stock coolers, to a Noctua DH15 or a cooler, a Cooler Master Hyper 212. So when you're able to save, you could put it in other places, not just put it in your pocket, but actually allocate it to other places of your build. But you can also have that peace of mind knowing that, hey, my PSU is new, my storage devices are new, my cooler is new. I have peace of mind knowing that those components won't fail on me anytime soon. And even if my graphics card, I bought this graphics card on the used market, it lasted for about 4 or 5 months. Okay, I got my money's worth for it. That's an easy replacement, right? There's less work involved with that. We get caught up in the chat here really fast. As Cliff says, I tell you guys what, value in the CPU market should be helping used CPU market, but it's really not. I would think so too, especially with us being at the height of the 12th generation release. I'm really not seeing prices drop as fast over there. As Cliff says, take the i3 10100F. I recently got quad core CPU, but it was $75. You still have people trying to sell 2600K, 7700K for $100 plus. Like, no fam, I can almost buy a 12th generation i5 or i3 brand new. Yeah, that's especially true for like the 7700K. I wonder just because it's just a strong quad core, 4-core 8-thread CPU. But even still, bundled with a Z270 motherboard, the most you'd want to pay for it is a 7700K and a Z270 motherboard. The most you'd want to pay maybe is $200. The most, mind you, the most. The upgrade path stops there. You're not upgrading past the 7700K, fam. So it's like the most you would want to pay for for that combo is about $200, and that's still pushing the envelope. That's still like you say, hey, another $80-$90, and I could be on a newer chipset that has a broader upgrade path. Rather that's over on the 490 chipset, or even on the 390 chipset, all the way up to a 9900K. But yeah, 7700Ks, they were selling for I mean, you see that a lot with older Intel CPUs. And we talked about that in previous live shows. We definitely have talked about how Intel CPUs continuously over time still demand a higher price uh, versus their counterpart, versus, say, an AMD CPU, bulldozer, or what have you. Cliff says used CPUs have been too close to new, in my opinion, lately. Right. Have you seen them on like Facebook Marketplace? I've seen some bundled 8600Ks. That's not too bad. Um, once you can, get around it and navigate. I've seen some pretty decent 8600Ks, especially if one wouldn't need hyperthreading. Not everybody necessarily needs hyperthreading. There's been compelling evidence that shows that hyperthreading actually doesn't necessarily help performance depending on the game. It actually hinders performance. So if your gaming load doesn't require you to have a CPU that can double its threads, then going with a CPU like the 8600K, just 6 cores, 6 threads, could be in your best interest. But if the money is right, if the price is right, fam, if the price is right. But I haven't really seen the prices drop on CPUs, given that we are in 12th generation over on Intel side. AMD just released their 3D based CPUs, and Ryzen 7000 is right around the corner. Cliff says i3-100F beats it pretty handily. I did a fair bit of research. The 10th generation i3 beats the 9th generation i5, but it's just not correlating. Even used Ryzen people want too much, Yeah, and I typically only see rising prices being low when it's being bundled with the motherboard, when the seller really wants to let it go, or they really want to let both go at the same time, as is typically the case. You don't want to sell the CPU and be stuck with the motherboard. It's going to take a little while longer to to flip it, especially when you're trying to recoup your money back. But everybody's wallet is different. Maybe you don't have an immediate need to gain your money back. Maybe you can sit on it and take your time. That's typically where the position I'm in. I could typically sit on it and just wait prior to, or at the height of the first tech demic, the first GPU tech demic, I actually sat on my graphics cards. I didn't sell them immediately. I just waited it out. I waited for the market to stabilize. And then we were thrown right back into it towards the end of 2019. And Cliff says, I don't know if the GPU craze skews the line, but new CPU value is really good. Used, not so much. And I agree with that sentiment. I agree wholeheartedly with that sentiment. Again, especially if you're able to go into a micro center and pick up a bundle deal, a CPU and motherboard combo. Or you can, depending on the type of games you want to play, you can pick up a 10th generation i5 new and pick up a motherboard and be somewhere under 300 USD and get comparable performance to a Ryzen CPU. But maybe that'll shift, or maybe that'll change once GPU prices start to come down. I think most people have sat on their CPUs and have been okay with their CPU choice. It's their GPU that most people have been looking to shift or upgrade. But like you said, that could be the GPU craze could have skewed that outlook. But when you're taking advantage of that new used price to performance, it's great for like similar to what we're discussing here with your CPU. It's great when you're trying to blend modern hardware for improved performance. Let's say going from DDR3 to DDR4, or using the 7700K for an example, going from a 4-core 8-thread CPU to an 8-core or 6-core CPU with or without hyperthreading or SMTs. Hyperthreading for Intel and simultaneously multi-threading for AMD side. But this could also unlock additional functionality for your system or your setup. But overall, it's really all about the deal. It's about, if you look at deal like an acronym, D stand for discover, right? It's all about shopping around and comparing cost and prices on the marketplace, depending on your marketplace of choice. Maybe over on Facebook, you can pick up some really sweet local deals. Or if you're willing to take a risk and have something shipped to you, some people ship on Facebook Marketplace, but there are a lot of users who also ship on offer up. And sometimes you will see that they will cross list their items. You will see them listed on the Facebook Marketplace. You also see them listed on offer up. It's all about discovery, right? It's all about shopping around and comparing costs and prices on the used marketplace. And then it's all about equity, right? If we're looking at this in terms of deal, and I should have had a little graphic up. Apologies on that. I told you I'm getting, we're working right back into the fold of things. But then it's all about equity. How much value is left within the component? What's its condition? How will this elevate my experience as a gamer, or is this enough to get me started with me finishing my system and or my build? And then it's about the amount. Is this item or component worth its asking price? How much do I have to spend? And is this consistent with is this price consistent across other platforms? Is it selling for, say, $100 less on Facebook Marketplace? If you're looking for a 10 series graphics card, again, I saw a GTX 1080 selling for about 250. It's still a little high, if you will. You would like to see a GTX 1080 at about 200 USD, 200, 220. That's why I said GPUs are still slightly expensive. Fam, let's not get available confused with affordable. There are more available cards than they were a year ago, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to immediately be affordable and have their prices lowered, especially on higher end cards, say XX70 on up, or the 6800 XT over on AMD side, which I did see a few over on Micro Center. But depending on the card, you may have to ask yourself, or the component, is this asking price, what they're asking, the amount, is it worth it, and is it consistent across the board? And then think about the leverage. And L, right, the last letter in deal, the last letter of our acronym here. Think about the leverage. Weighing the performance with a scale of what's available on the market versus what's in demand. So you want to take that leverage and you say, hey, there's a bunch of 10 series cards that's available on the market. Compare that to the price of a new, I shouldn't spend, if an RTX 3050 is available for $323, then I probably shouldn't buy a GTX, 1070 or 1080 for more than 300 USD. When you can just go ahead and take advantage of, again, that new used price to performance and buy new where can, because you're going to get more performance for your money, more value for your money. Prices may vary depending on your local market and currency, but if discovering hidden value and savings is the sweet spot on the used market, then nailing the right deal is the icing on the cake. That's where it starts, fam. Deal, discover, equity, amount, and leverage. Okay, that's what it's all about right there, because there are risks to buying used PC parts. Either way you slice it down the middle. Maybe you've bought a used car before. Maybe your home wasn't purchased new, and there could have very much been risk involved with that. So buying used or secondhand, there's risk involved all up and down the stack, but they can be avoided or limited altogether with understanding the value of the component in terms of PC hardware. I'm looking down here as I'm pointing down to Snow White. Or the strength as the used market as a collective, with its pillars holding up the idea or concept of hardware equity and used price to performance. But ain't no budget high enough and ain't no value low enough to keep you from saving on building or upgrading your PC. Risks are measured in their rewards. And with the used PC market, the potential is, or what lies in the middle, right? Ignore the stigma of buying secondhand or used PC parts. I'll tell you to be the first one to, to tell you that first and foremost. As an influencer, if there's anything I'm going to, persuade you from being ridiculed about, and that's buying secondhand. Buy that used case. There's nothing wrong with saving money. Let somebody, criticize and ridicule you for wanting to save money. They're likely the one not looking too bright. Nobody should make fun of you for wanting to save money, especially in a hobby as expensive as PC gaming is, especially in this hobby. Ignore the stigma of buying used or secondhand PC parts. Savings is the game, and if you don't play, you don't win. Like any game, right? Or like Michael Jordan said, you miss 100% of shots you don't take. So savings is the game, and if you don't play, you don't win. If you're not looking to save money, then you're not going to do it. That can either be saving money so you can actually buy more games, or save money to put towards a particular upgrade down the road. Let's say that's at the height of the 46 to 4070 release, which we should expect an announcement here soon with the potential Q3, Q4 release date. Same thing with with AMD 70 series. But savings is the game, y'all. If you don't play, you don't win. You can buy and sell with confidence when you understand their worth or potential value. Know the difference between what you're getting and what you deserve. And you can't lose, fam. You can't lose on the second market, on the used market, on the secondhand market. Let me get caught up in the chat here really fast. As Sparta Rules says, I bought my case used. I'm glad I bought it because they end up discontinuing. I'm sorry, I can't read. Discontinuing it later on. And Sparta Rules in 1993, his case is the Shift Evolved Air. I believe the Shift Evolved Air X. I might be wrong with that. But it's the Shift Evolved Air. We actually did a video on that, on his build. To me, it's one of the best videos. Maybe Mrs. Ma could plug it here in the chat as we round up and you want more content. But the RTX 3060 at 5800X build we did was one heck of a story, and probably one of the best produced, for my opinion, because what really matters the most is what the audience thinks. That's you lovely gentlemen and gals who are out there. But it's really about what you guys and gals think. But in my opinion, that's one of the best produced videos I've made on this channel in terms of editing and just story composition, and how the story is delivered and the value that's stuffed somewhere there in between. But yeah, Sparta Rules bought his case used. It's okay. Buy that used case. Save money on that case. Save money on that GPU where applicable. If you don't need an 8 GB card, if you just need 6, or maybe you just need 4 because you want to play like Destiny 2, Minecraft, GTA 5 games that don't require a graphics card to have 4 GB or more. I will say though, a 6 GB card is a good spot to be in for you to play and enjoy, even if this game's at a lower graphic setting like Elden Ring is a good spot to start at. So if you could pick up, say, a 1060 or a GTX 980, somewhere in between there, a graphics card that has 6 GB or more, and that's if you're interested in playing games like Elden Ring, games that are a little bit more demanding on the graphics side. Okay, consider a graphics card with at least 6 GB of VRAM. But if you want to play moderate to low end games, then 4 GB VRAM, a graphics card with 4 GB of VRAM over on the used market will suit your needs more than well enough. Like Cliff said, WASD moves, the value is new in terms of CPU. So you're investing well within your motherboard's chipset. You may start off with a 6-core 12-thread i5 now, but you know that, hey, I want to stream, I want to edit, I want to do other things with my system and my hardware. You have a robust upgrade path all the way up to an i9 10900K, 10-core 20 threads as an option, should you want to go down that route. Sean says, my 38 Ti was bought on eBay, advertised as new, but was used. Seller took $300 off when I called them out. Fingers crossed it doesn't fail. Hey, that's what's... Dang. As Cliff says, there, bro, that's sketch. Yeah, that's a tough one. And I'm not sure what that seller's intentions would even be to lie about something like that, when there could be some signs of indication that the card is not new, that has definitely been used. But at least you got him to take off 300. So regardless if it does fail, or so far so good, maybe they sold it because it was loud, right? And they only used it and tried it out for a month. In their eyes, it's new because I only used it for a month. So technically, it's not an older card. Think about it like a car. Think about it like a car. You could buy a car, but where its diminishing return is going to come in at is how often that car is driven. You can have a 10-year-old car with, say, 100,000 miles, or you can have a 10-year-old car with 170,000 miles. Same thing with that graphics card. You might have, which is interesting. It'd be nice if graphics card mileage was measured that way, but it's not. But having $300 shaved off, like you said, hopefully it doesn't fail. But still, that's what maybe paid about $700-800 for that card. Then it's not bad. Cliff says, yeah, warranty is a consideration, and I want to stream. I'm going to be a superstar. Yay, hey, listen, yep, hey, go for it. Go for it. Cliff, you definitely got the hardware. You definitely got the hardware to get it done. And thank you, Mrs. Mod, for dropping the link to that video. So yeah, we're getting ready to the ride is slowly coming to an end. But hey, listen, if you want more Inside the Lab content after we wrap up here, do stick around for the closing credits if you have yet to see them. Pretty dope stuff there. But give that video a watch. It's definitely a good watch. And of course, give it a like for me. If you haven't liked this stream yet, give it a like. Give it a like. It felt so good to be back live streaming, and I'm looking forward to joining you guys next Saturday. Do keep a lookout for the link to go out, and I'll probably send it out to our email list subscribers. If you have not joined our email list yet, I highly recommend you consider signing up for our email list and becoming an Lab Insider to get content updates. Like I guess you could say like a monthly newsletter, just live stream reminders, which I should have did for this live stream. But still, we had a pretty decent turnout. Not bad considering this live stream has been in limbo hell for the last month, so to speak. But we finally got it rolling out, and we have a couple good live stream conversations down the pipeline that I look forward to catching up and rocking out. As TMZ says, finally upgraded my old 580 to a new 6800 XT. Ooh, that is nice. Nice upgrade path, man. After I thought prices are reasonable, super happy with it. I feel like a big boy now. That's a heck of a card, man. The 6800 XT is a beast. 16 gigabytes of memory. Could pretty much handle anything you want to throw at it. Glorious card either way, and I'm pretty sure you felt the difference going from your 580 to your 6800 XT. TMZ. What'd you do with your 580? We're curious to know. Did you sell it? Did you you going to use it for a second system? You're going to gift it to a friend or fam? Do let us know here as we round out. TMZ. Tricep says, yep, will do. Mrs. Mod. Shout out to Mrs. Mod for keeping the conversation flowing and going. As Cliff says, word up, Mrs. Mod and y'all homies. Yes. But yeah, everyone, thanks for stopping by. I'm gonna do my quick closing shout outs really fast here. Shout out to TMZ. Of course, we gotta get a round of applause going. Shout out to TMZ for popping up and showing up. WSD Moves, Cliffs for the super chats. Of course, thank you for the supers help in a really big way, regardless of the amount. Mrs. Mod, Sparta Rules for being a channel member. Definitely appreciate you being a channel member. Consider joining as a channel member. We have prices as low as $3.99 and more content coming to channel members as well. So, Sean, it was also good having you hang out with us, Sean D, Tricion. Let me see. Let me go up. I think that was it. And Toasted Transistor, whose comment won't show anymore, but Toasted really wanted to make sure that the live stream was happening today. And so, Toasted, there you go. Hopefully you'll watch on the replay. And TMZ says, yep, I still have it. I always need a backup GPU. Solid, man. Smart stuff. Absolutely. And Mrs. Mod dropped the link to become a channel member. Yeah, give that a look-sees over if you are not a channel member or you thought about sign up to be a channel member. Hopefully that link right there will be enough to convince you. But all right, I think the ride is slowly coming to an end. We did our shout outs. Thanks for hanging out for this YouTube live. I do hope to catch you all the next one, which is next weekend. But until then, be easy.